like. Right, so we're supposed to be live now. Let me just check something. I'm just going to just view it 1 second. So how you doing, Sheikh? Everything's cool? Family's all good? Family's good?
Yeah, we're good, alhamdulillah. We're good. Everything's moving on. Just getting by, getting ready for the winter, establishing different various activities, projects. Alhamdulillah, we're getting there. We're getting there. We've got some brothers. We're helping the brothers give dawah in Stratford, providing them dawah material. We're organising a dawah workshop in the centre for November, so it'll be the 10th of November. I think it's 10th. No, wait. The 14th, I think it is. I'm not sure the actual date. With IERA.
Is Yusuf English out there? Oh, I think one of my family said he's.
Yeah, he's there, yeah.
Okay. Is that kind of set up or sponsored by Al Madar, or is it some independent thing, or what?
Yeah, so basically, some brothers came a few months ago, so they wanted to do some stuff. I said, yeah, we can help out and get some materials and supply them the stuff. And that's basically just how it's begun. They're doing their own thing. Well, when I say doing their own thing, it sounds a bit weird, but it's as in they're giving da'wah because they want to give da'wah. It's not me giving instruction and giving appointments. It's just them doing da'wah. We're trying to support their stuff with providing them with materials. So IERA gives us books and then we hand it over to them. We've got some funds allocated for the printing of some materials. Later on, and just basically stuff like that. And then hopefully we want to try and put forward a support, you could say aftercare for new Muslims and so on and so forth. So there's a lot going on. Just haven't finalized anything yet but there's a lot still going on. And we've got the Muslim connection thing going on for the sisters. The first Saturday of every month, open day for sisters, come in, socialize, free food, games, whatnot.
As we know, the sisters are very active. What's happening on the brother side? What's happening on the brother side?
Well, the thing is, I did try and get some brothers to start something up in July this year. And the same time I said to the sisters, get something set up. As you can imagine, the sisters did it, and brothers just never did.
Yes.
So I'm gonna have to try and maybe take the lead on that one, on the brothers front. But inshallah, we'll get some progress.
Okay, let me just share this link quickly, and then we'll start.
So we're live now, yeah, on the YouTube.
We are streaming now on YouTube and Facebook. This is our first the first Muslim morning podcast. Obviously, it's a difficult one, but inshallah, we're going to get used to it. Anyway, so Bismillah, alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. Welcome everyone to the Muslim morning podcast. I'm your host Ismail Howe, and we are here with Ustad Muawiyah Tucker.
So I'll just open the front door.
No problem. The reason for the Muslim morning podcast is because this was the only time I was able to get hold of the one and only, the Ustad, the mashallah Shariah Medina graduate. The only time I could nail him down on a regular basis was at 9 o'clock in the morning. And I think it's a good time. Inshallah, our minds are fresh and ready to go and ready for the day. But what we're going to be discussing from now in the near future is basically day-to-day issues, trying to look at the world through the eyes of the Sharia laws Muslims, to analyze what's happening, particularly for Muslims in the West, and how we can increase our faith, be better Muslims, deal with the issues that we're facing on a day-to-day basis. So we're going to start with something that's been happening recently. One is I'm going to summarize where I'm at right now. The issue with the Afghan war, the fact that the Taliban were successful and the colonial powers had to leave one by one, the last of them being America. But the feedback from that war was that the whole 20 years war was really about fighting terror and saving the Afghan women.
Mm-hmm.
So once that war was over, there was a load of backlash from the mainstream media concerning how barbaric the Sharia is. It was nothing about the horrendous atrocities that happened during that 20 years. So it's always about blaming Islam and not actually looking at what was the cause of the war. Was it a just war, and actually what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so that was the Afghan war. But the thing is, the alternative news, there are some news outlets that not mainstream actually painted the true picture concerning the fact that arms company made billions of dollars out of this war.
Mm-hmm.
They reported the amount of civilian deaths. They reported the fact that what America was doing on the ground concerning, torturing people, kidnapping people, assassinations, rapes, killings, etc. This wasn't reported, obviously, mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
It was all painted to be, you Muslims, we went there to save you from the Taliban and from Afghanistan and from Al Qaeda, and you people are ungrateful, etc., etc. So that was one thing. Then on top of that, we then had the anniversary of 9/11, which again was there to paint a picture that these Muslims, look what happened, 20 odd years ago. You attacked us, and now we have to fight back for our rights and our freedom, and you Muslims are terrorists, etc., etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
Once again, painting the Muslims in a bad light, and that we are just terrorists and etc., etc. Then I'm going to end up with some. We had the Shamima Begum, the sister who, at 15 years old, went to join ISIS. Now she's very regretful for what she's done, and really, they really painted a
So when
poor
you say
picture of
we
her.
went to join ISIS, join it to do what? To fight?
Well, her story is, I'm good. Her story was that she was influenced by ISIS. Maybe it was part of the kind of, we need to be with some real men, some Islamic heroes,
Yeah.
and she fell into a trap. Maybe she was groomed. She went. There was three young girls, 15 years of age. Two of her friends died, and she's the only one left.
Oh
So she
wow.
agreed. She agreed it was a mistake, and she wants to come back to the UK. And she had an interview on one of the morning shows, and I feel it was really bad because I think on one side she's really trying to show that she's Western, and on the other side, from the West point of view, they're really kicking her while she's down. Like,
Mm-hmm.
can
Mm-hmm.
we really trust you, kind of thing. So once again, it's showing bad light, showing a bad light upon the Muslims. My point is this. My summary is this:
Mm-hmm.
how are all these events affecting the relationship between the Muslim, the day-to-day Muslim, and the non-Muslim? Okay, on the political field, things are happening, between country, the relation between country and country. But what about the average Joe like me and you? What do you think how this information trickles down to the average, your neighbor, your work colleague, your family? How do you think that affects the relationship between Muslims and non-Muslims? Do you see it? Do you feel it? Do you think there is a mistrust in the society between the average Muslim, or is it just, majority of the non-Muslims are fine and they know it's just propaganda? Or do you think there are some underlying issues affecting our relationships?
Okay, I mean, بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا ونفعنا بما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. So, in terms of the issue of relationship, the way I always see these things, these situations, and me personally, I don't really delve too deep into politics because, as I explained a bit later on, is that there's a lot going on that we are unaware of. But generally speaking, all that you've just described now, I don't see anything new. And I think that's something I think all Muslims need to recognize fundamentally about these situations or situations like this. There is. I would find it very difficult to imagine there's anything that you mentioned which is not occurred at some point in the past, probably multiple times. I think the only difference that we have in this day and age is that the motivations of nation states aren't based on religion or aren't rooted and grounded in religion. Let me explain that. So in the past, for example, I went to not I, we brother, me and you went to what's it called, the Muslim tour of London, and
Yes, yes, we did. Yes.
they were discussing different aspects of the way in which Islam or Muslims interacted with the non-Muslims. And one of the things that I got from that whole experience, a big shout out to Abdul Malik for the whole experience. And one of the big the things I gained from that experience is that in the past, I felt that I'm not saying, when I say past, I don't mean time Sahaba. I mean like between
Recent,
the
modern times
Tabi'een.
kind of thing. Oh.
No, no, not. Yeah, I mean, that's like the 200, 300, 400, 500 years ago, 600 years ago, that time. In the past, it seemed as though the lines between people,
Mm-hmm.
borders, were
Mm-hmm.
rooted in identity, and and at the core of the identity was their religion. Meaning, they never saw a person as a Muslim; they saw him as a Turk. I mean, even that word there, that's rooted in jins, is rooted in biology, or not biology, in tribes or nation states. So, for example, you were
Yes.
Muslim meant you represented the nation state of Muslimin. And if you were an Englishman and you accepted Islam, you essentially were treasonous for abandoning your nation. If it makes sense,
Yes.
your identity as a Christian was woven deeply with being an English person or Scotsman or whatever it is. And same with Muslims even. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
as we saw, Muslims came to the UK, spent even time here, maybe even done business here, but didn't really make any real impact dawah-wise. There didn't seem to be any. There didn't seem to be. Was not saying it
Mm-hmm.
should have been, but it didn't seem to be any outward da'wah. It seemed as though, it was quite clear, lakum deenukum waliya deen kind of thing, as in, I'm a Muslim, this is what I do, I have halal, you're a Christian, you have yours and I have mine, I do my thing, you do your thing. And the lines were quite drawn literally by borders. I'm from the Moors, I'm from the Turks, I'm from the Arabs, and this is how we are. And everyone was in their little, in a way, bubble, good or bad,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. The difference today, though, however, is that that part is, I think, has been separated. And I guess again, that's part of secularism, really, where you separate religion from state. And I think that has manifested even on the ground level, where a person could be a proud Englishman and Muslim, or a proud Englishman and an atheist. As in, there's no actual connection anymore between religion and state.
And state.
Um,
Is that good or bad? From the point of the individual, the fact that if you're Muslim, it doesn't necessarily mean you're Turk.
Well, I mean, the good thing about that, I guess, from here, in this perspective, is, I guess, from our perspective, is if you was to invite someone to Islam, they won't necessarily, I mean, not saying won't, but they won't necessarily associate accepting Islam with abandoning their nation or their state or who they are
Okay,
or
going
their
against the
peoples kind of
going
thing.
against the crown. They're not going against the crown,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
they haven't gone against the crown and whatnot. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sure they don't even care about the crown, most of the people in this country.
Yes.
I mean, you do definitely get that, but I'm saying it seems to be less because of secularism. So that is, I guess, a benefit. But the flip side is, I would say, where there are benefits to, you could say, that feeling of being part of a nation, being part of a people. Muslims have become weak in that, whereby just because you're Muslim, it doesn't seem to matter much anymore. Does that make sense? Whereas maybe in the past, being a Muslim meant you were one of us. Whereas now you're Muslim. Or where are you from? You're from Jamaica. Oh, you're Jamaican. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yes.
you're still over there. You're not over here yet. You're not with us yet. Maybe that's how it is. I don't know. But I'm saying that this day and age, when it comes to the issue of, we're talking about nation states. We're talking
Yeah.
about government policy. We're talking about foreign policy. Foreign policy in Western countries don't seem to be, on the apparent at least, rooted in religion. They seem to be rooted in money, power.
Okay. Can I just cut you? So the fact that we're now nation states and more secular, has that allowed Islam to spread more? If you get what I'm saying, like we can be so-called British and Muslim, no
Mm-hmm.
problem, and not well in some eyes not seen as the fifth column, or not seen as like people
I mean, the
planning
thing
and
is,
plotting for the destruction.
I mean, like I
Um,
said, it's a double-edged sword because, like I said, from a
yes,
Muslim perspective, there is actually a part whereby if you are Muslim now, you are now one of us, and you need to be one of us and be with us, and you do have that sense of, or you should have that sense of, you're part of this home now. You're from
yes,
the
you're British.
Muhammad.
Hmm.
Whereas if a Muslim has been affected by Western ideals of secularism, then ideas of I can be Muslim and still be culturally British, you could say, which is some parts okay and other parts not okay.
Mm,
Okay, fair enough. You might want to eat certain foods and like certain things and laugh at certain jokes, but there are
mm,
elements that you can't be British. For example,
hmm.
in certain ideals that go against Islam. So you can see there's that is a grey area. I don't think many
Yes.
Muslims have properly hashed it out yet. What does it really mean to become Muslim in the UK or in a non-Muslim country? But the question you asked, it wasn't actually to do that. It was to do with these foreign policies. Has it soured the relationship between Muslims and non-Muslims? Now, I say there's two parts of that question as
Mm,
it relates to us in the UK. The first part is has it soured that relationship in London or maybe in major
hmm,
cities? And has it
hmm,
soured that relationship in more rural areas, more small towns and whatnot? And I think
hmm.
from that, I would say that those more rural areas, those more town areas, especially those that are not so cosmopolitan, they are still more inclined or more or akin to how it used to be. The qawm, the nation, your people, you with your little jama'ah, and to leave that would mean to leave your people's that identity, that strong identity of being British and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
Whereas in like London, it's a mix, it's a hot pot. That's less of an issue. It's very easy to find someone in London from the
Hmm.
non-Muslims who is against government policy. I mean, we just had a million man march, about a decade ago against the Iraqi war, wasn't it, in the northeast?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I don't remember any million man march in Gloucestershire or these smaller areas or
Got you.
so would it sour and also with the you could say the rise of social justice
Mm,
ideals.
hmm.
Lot of non-Muslims are saying, they're analyzing things and trying to be fair and apply
Hmm.
the rules fairly. If we're supposed to be an open country for human rights and freedoms,
Hmm.
what does that mean? And if I turn those same rules to our government, what does that mean? That's more manifesting itself, you could say, in places like London. I would suggest.
Yes.
Whereas a
But
more again, go on.
look, do you think obviously I listed those recent few events?
Yeah.
Um, do you think that this is a more of a political agenda being pushed on the local people, being pushed on the everyday John, Mick, Fred, Abdullah, Muhammad, Aisha, whatever,
Hmm.
but it's not coming from the ground up? Like, what is it based upon a hatred for Islam and Muslims, or do you think it is just a colonial push for power, push for influence in that particular area? I mean, I think England have gone to fight there twice and lost. The
Hmm.
Russians went fought and lost and fought. Now it's America's time.
Hmm.
And they now lost already. But the aim, they always say, okay, we've come to civilize these people. We've come to free the women. We've come to, as if to say that they are coming with something better than Islam.
Hmm.
Or do you get what I'm saying? So
Hmm.
it's always this kind of thing. Okay, this thing of clash of civilizations.
Hmm.
The fact that the West want to push their ideology
Hmm.
on Muslims and using the war and terror, using we're coming to help your women. Um, where do we stand on this? Where should Muslims stand on this issue? How should we
So,
push back on this thing?
so the thing is, what I think everyone needs to recognize are the raw facts of reality. And like I said to you, I think the situation isn't much different than it has always been. So, and let me give you two fronts where it's not much different. Number one, power or power structures have always used narratives to navigate people's opinions. That's always been the case. There's never been a time when individuals have controlled the minds of others and haven't used that control for their own personal gain. That's always been the case. Because whatever comes to threaten their power structure, obviously they want to fight back. I mean, just look at Quraysh. For example, the Quraysh, a lot of the people, the leaders of Quraysh, knew exactly who Muhammad was. They knew he wasn't a liar. They knew he wasn't a sahib. They knew all these things. But what were the ramifications to them personally if they accepted that? So they leaned upon
their power.
Loss of their power and traditions. It's not just an issue of power, also their traditions. Like Allah mentioned in the Quran, "Inna wajadna aba'ana ala ummah wa inna ala atharihim muqtadun." As in, verily we found our forefathers on a particular way, and we're going to stick to that way. As in, they were used to a way of life, and the threat of changing that is twofold. Number one, I might lose what I have in this change, and number two, I like what I have. Why should I change? So this is how it is. It's always going to be the case, and it's human nature. So I'm saying this is a human thing. And also, we must also acknowledge the reality that when they say, "Oh, we're going to liberate these Afghan women and we're going to save their women from oppression of Islam, whatnot," again, nothing new. What did Fir'aun say to his people? "I only guide you to I only guide you to the straight path, the Sabil al-Rashad." So Fir'aun, we know Fir'aun, he told his people, "I'm only guiding you to the straight path." So, and why did he say that? Because he believed that. So it's when people say, "Oh, it's propaganda," but that's what everyone will do. I mean, flip the coin on the other end. Wouldn't we do the same thing? Don't we do the same thing? We have our own propaganda. The only difference is our propaganda is real. It's from Allah. It's guided. It is a proven path of safety, of tranquility, of peace. It's given to us by the Creator of the heavens and the earth, and they just have their own ideologies and whatnot. So,
but do we see so what we're saying is that they sincerely believe that they need to liberate the Muslim women, and
some of them do. Yeah, I think of it this way.
Where's the excuse for war then? Where is the excuse? Because you might say, well, okay, we want to just say, for example, we want to capture Osama bin Laden, for example, yeah. Does that mean you're going to now kill 100,000 civilians in order to do that? If you're sincerely there to catch one person, then killing 100,000 innocent people wouldn't be on the agenda. Drone striking people, torturing people. So you can see where the hypocrisy is. On the one side, they're going to. So I get what you're saying in that. From a non-Muslim point of view, they want to project their power, their values onto non-Muslim country or non-Muslims, or onto Muslims, because they believe it's a better way of life. People are suffering under the Sharia and need to be liberated. So if there is a sincere element to that, then I doubt they will kill 100,000 women and children, innocent men, women and children, in order to do that. So there's an element of, no, we're just going to come and colonize you and subjugate you.
This is where psychology is very important to have at least a basic knowledge of it, because human beings are very good at deceiving themselves. Meaning, I'm sure we've all been in a situation where you've seen a scenario, you know it's wrong. You know deep down it's wrong. So that's your mindset and that's your opinion. And you know situations that are exactly the same, but now you're not so sure. Now you think, wait, but maybe this is justified, maybe this is okay and whatnot. And the only thing that changed was motivations, interests, and whatnot. So maybe for example, an action is wrong, and the only reason you actually generally think it's wrong is because you have no motivation you have no interest in that thing. You're not invested in the outcome of that thing. So you say, oh, of course it's wrong. Why would you do that? But now you have interest involved in it. Now you're thinking, okay, wait, maybe it's not so bad. Meaning, Can a person justify murder to achieve some random goal? Of course they can. That's why people. That's a lot of reason why people do it. The question isn't whether it's justified. Because when it comes to the issue of right and wrong, we use the Sharia, and the Sharia doesn't look at your motivations and how you think it's going to be. Do you think it's the right thing or not? But we don't care what we think it's the right thing or not. We have to look at objective realities, not subjective realities. So subjectively, they can say, yeah, this is a good idea, this is a bad idea, and blah blah blah. And do they believe their BS? I'm sure a lot of them do. Now, do all of them do so? And that's another thing. I think Muslims have to be really smart in the way they're thinking and the way they address these things. We can't
Yes.
we can't assume. Okay, I'll give you an ayah in the Quran. Allah says, تَحْسَبُهُمْ جَمِيعًا وَقُلُوبُهُم شَتَّى. You perceive that their hearts are united, but their hearts are divided. Sometimes we think,
mashallah.
the Brits are there's a conspiracy to destroy the Muslimin. Actually, there's like a couple thousand, 100,000 people involved in all of this. Each one having their own motivations. Some people just want money. Some people just want a pension. Some guy wants to set up a oil pipeline between China and everyone has their own motivations, and everyone's trying their best to get the best what they want to get. And sometimes these motivations will align in one direction and that's where they'll go, and sometimes they'll align in somewhere else and that's where they go. I mean, for example, why would America leave Afghanistan right now? Because the motivations have changed right now. They're printing money into oblivion. The economy is going to pop. China's literally on the up.
Financially, it wasn't viable for them financially.
Yeah,
they was
so
losing out.
Changed. Yeah, the motivations have changed. So, for example, in the early noughties, there was this whole idea of bailing out banks and printing lots of money. That didn't exist at the time. The national debt wasn't that bad. What they call debt to GDP, the amount of debt the government has compared to how much money the people were making, it wasn't as bad as it was now. So the motivation was like, yeah, let's go and do this and let's go and blaze into our country and just bomb everyone and copy this one and that. They're all very brazen and very very open in the and brave and ambitious. That's a key word. They're ambitious. Whereas now things are different. Now they're on the brink of collapse. Now they need to draw their bridges. So of course they think it's a bad idea to be in Afghanistan because it no longer aligns with their desires. And this is what I think this is the most important thing to take from this part of the discussion. This is why in Islam we don't look at what you want as desired as motivations for actions. We use the Sharia as a guideline. Just like you said. What you said earlier on, the questions you were asking earlier on about, I want to capture Osama bin Laden, does that justify the killing of X amount of thousands of people? If you're using your nafs, your own greed and whatnot to justify, you can see, of course, it's a good reason, because if you look at the cost of this and that, but you can justify a lot of things. But the question you're asking, you're not looking about costs and margins and what you can get out of it and investment. You're looking at it in terms of the Sharia. What does the Sharia say? Is such an act allowed or not allowed in the Sharia? So that's why it's almost wrong. It doesn't make sense to apply that level of superior logic and thought to people who are not thinking like that. It's like saying it's like saying when you see a kid playing his PlayStation and they get into a little squabble between themselves. And you think, what are you guys squabbling about? It's irrational what you're talking about. Yeah, but they're kids. Of course they're irrational. They don't know what they're talking about. You as an adult, you can't expect them to think like you think. And this is where da'wah comes in. This is why I'm hoping Muslims would take this on board as an avenue to help them give da'wah. When you're talking to a Muslim and you're inviting them to Islam, and it comes with all this nonsense about bin Laden and terrorists and Begum, Shamima, whatever.
Yes.
You have to look at him as that child who doesn't know any better, and you have to try and bring them over to logic, bring them over to understanding with what's it called? Billatihi ahsan, with that which is the best. Does that make sense?
Yes.
One last thing. So I'll give you an example. I had a surveyor come into the center here a few days ago. Hindu. So basically, it's to do with the evaluation of the building for the government. And he was telling me about some of the things. He came to survey the property and he ended up talking about Islam and politics.
Okay.
But he was telling me, surprisingly enough, that he doesn't agree with Indian policies and how they're treating Muslims in India, and it's not right what they're doing, and what the government's doing is they're interfering religion with running the government, and the way they treat Muslims over there is not good, and basically he's not happy with what Hindus are doing to Muslims, and he's a Hindu.
Yeah. Yes.
And he spent like probably good 5-10 minutes cussing off India and their policies towards Muslims and whatnot, and how they're doing bad. And then spent the next 5-10 minutes praising the leader of UAE. He spent time in Emirates and whatnot, which is Muslim innocent. And so my point is that we have this Indian person here who is a Hindu who was impressed with some elements of Islam and how Muslims do things, and was dissatisfied with how his own people, technically speaking, his Hindu leadership is running things. Now, if I had just approached him as just he's a Hindu from India, and I looked at it like that because a blank slate, that's how I would assume that he is just like his leadership.
Yes.
But people are not like that. People are individuals, and you have to assess people differently. So that's an example of how someone. And he mentioned the issue of Shamima Begum. He mentioned that he was listening to LBC and they were discussing about the topic of Shamima Begum. And they were saying, should he let her back in or whatnot? And he said himself, in my mind, before listening to the conversation, I would have said, keep her out. Who needs her?
Okay.
After listening to the conversation, now he's like, well, she deserves a fair trial. So you can see here that he's trying to look at things fairly, not sectarian. He's not saying I'm Hindu and I'm against Muslims, so therefore they're all wrong. He's trying to look at things fairly. And those kind of people, they're, you could say, prime for the message of Islam. They're ready to listen to the message of Islam, because Islam is about, or when it comes to da'wah, you basically are informing them about what does Islam say, giving them the knowledge to understand how Muslims think, and inviting them to join that. And I'm convinced that any human being with intellect Allah's given them, and who intends to use the intellect, will come to the same conclusion. And basically, that will be very easier. The only thing, the main thing that prevents people from accepting Islam, in my honest experience, is due to what we mentioned earlier on. They want to stay in their ways that they already have, and they avoid losing what they have. That's all it is. I've seen people who have, you can see it in their eyes. You know yourself, when you give doubt to someone, and you can see them thinking, you can see them accepting, but then you start seeing that you can see it in their eyes. You can see that thought of what you're saying, right or wrong. No longer right and wrong. It's like, how can I accept this? How can I become this? How could I adopt this? That discussion comes in their head. So, do you think
that, as I said, do you think that the powers that be are losing this propaganda war? Meaning the average Joe can see through that was just a political move, that was a money move, that wasn't, all Muslims are terrorists. Because how do we as Muslims see, irrespective of what the propaganda is, Muslims have still got to give dawah and behave, and they can't say, well, okay, well, you hate us, we hate you, kind of thing. But do you think they are losing the propaganda war with your neighbor, because it's too blatant? The hypocrisy is too blatant to say, okay, we went to Afghan for 20 years just to save Afghan women. That's just ridiculous. But
I mean, the thing is, what it is, I think,
meaning that person who came into your shop, the surveyor, is an example that he's not as you said, people are tribal. You might find people who are not in a cosmopolitan area, they're going to stick to what they know. But those who, on a day-to-day basis, mix with Muslims, are not going to fall for that propaganda.
So, and this is my subjective opinion, right or wrong, it's essentially like, I think because of secularism, so not because of secularism only, but secularism has made it easier. Because of the separation between religion and the state, people are more prone to think, and I guess more prone to adopt and change views and discuss, probably more so, I don't know. I mean, one could make an argument it's the opposite, actually, because they're less religious, it's harder to talk to them. It depends. But because religion is not attached to the state, that religious loyalty is lost in that regard. So you're no longer loyal to the queen and country because you don't even identify on a religious level with the queen. She's just an individual. So why should I back her in anything really? She's just a person.
Yes.
So there is that, and because of that, I believe that most people in the UK, and I'm speaking UK only because I don't want to extend my speech to other countries. I don't know how they function, but in the UK, I think most people, Muslim and non-Muslim, are primarily motivated by money. Meaning, I think a lot of people, I'm not saying all, I'm not saying most, but a lot of people would easily accept that the war in Afghanistan was wrong, primarily because it cost them, and they recognize that.
Not from a moral standpoint.
That's what I'm saying. As well as moral. When I say as well as moral, I'll hopefully make it clear from what I said before. People's views aren't so directly as in, for example, you might say something's wrong because Islam says it's wrong. Because ideologically, you have adopted that right and wrong comes from Islam. Take that out of the equation. Take Islam out of the equation. How do you define right and wrong? Just desires. Just what I desire. Nafs. You have no moral ground to say left or right, up or down. Just nafs. And if the nafs, if the soul, if your personal wants and desires is your motivator, the next question is, what sways you left or right? Whatever makes you upset, you go away from. Whatever makes you happy, you go towards. That's what means living by your nafs means. So if these people are being harmed on the bottom line, their finances are being harmed on the bottom line, they will change. They will move away from this to that. And if they've been benefited, they'll move towards that. This is why Allah describes the kuffar as being like cattle, rather than worse. What does the sheep do? If the grass over here is short and there's not much nutrients, it will go to the grass where it's thicker.
Yeah.
And you'll look back and say, I thought it was rubbish. And then when the field over here is eaten dry and there's not much left, you'll say, this was rubbish. I goes over there. You know what I'm saying? They'll just go where the nafs goes. So, for example, and you can even see it. I mean, historically, right now we're seeing after COVID, we're seeing the economy going down. Even just now, you go shopping, all your things you're buying are getting smaller. We're seeing the pinch. And when you start feeling the pinch, you start asking the question, how are we spending our money and why now? As in before, when you had affluence, you could do what you need to do in it.
Yeah.
You don't care. Now you have the pinch. You start asking the questions even more so. Was there any point going to war? What did we benefit? How did that make my life any better? You might think it's a moral question, but if you scratch the surface, and when I say scratch the surface, I mean even subconscious. I'm not saying it's a conscious decision. I'm saying subconsciously, you can actually make things justified. So I think a large majority of kuffar who are changing their narrative, I think it's just economics. I know I don't want to reduce everything to economics, but I think it really is for a large thing. A lot of problems can be reduced to economics, and I know it sounds, just reductive to reduce everything down to economics, but I think a lot of what people do when they don't have the guidance of Sharia, it's just economics. It's just this is cheaper.
I mean, most definitely, going into war, the narrative from a lot of the alternative news channels was that those who were pushing for the Iraq war had also links to or big shareholders of arms companies. So the big, a politician now who's saying, we should go to war and trying to justify it, is also getting X amount of billions.
I mean, look at what you just said there. Okay. The guys at the top, heading the war, leading the war, engaging in that war, they've obviously got invested interest. Let's not. And the thing is, let's not downplay the importance of that, because even Islamically speaking, imagine we had Islamic Khilafah with a leader. He may, an Islamic ruler may justifiably choose to attack another country for finances. I mean, why not? That's why we have war booty. Why else did Allah stipulate in the Sharia the ghanima, the war booty, is part of the motivation for a person to fight? You're gonna go fight, you're spreading Islam, but at the same time, where's my war booty? What was the reason why the people in the Sahaba came down from the mountain in Uhud, although they were told not to leave the mountain? It was more booty. So we
Yes.
can't ignore the motivation of money.
Yes.
But the question is, that money that was being made was for them, not for
Yes.
us.
Not for the nation, you
How?
could say.
Not for the individual, me and you. We're not making money from the Afghan war directly. But what was the narrative at the time? The narrative at the time was they are threatening our economy. They are setting bombs in central London, doing this one over here, this over here, and we can't function economically speaking. We can't go out. I mean, how do you use the underground if you're worried that there's going to be a bomb in the underground? So now you've made that economic decision down to you've reduced down to the grassroots, down to the everyday Joe. He's now wondering, how am I going to go to work and make money if these guys are going to be laying bombs every 5 minutes? Same with the IRA. Look at the IRA. What did they target? They didn't target schools and whatnot. They targeted central London. Bombs straight in Liverpool Street.
Yeah.
Now it affects me. I want to go to work. I want to trade my stocks. I want to do my business. I want to get my. I can't do that anymore because these annoying Muslims coming in our country, blowing up our stuff. I can't do my business. Now it's affecting the bottom line again. But again, like I said, as time has moved on, that issue is no longer affecting us. Now it makes sense why the Kuffar are saying, well, why are we in Afghanistan? Because it's no longer affecting them anymore. On the grassroots, yeah, the guy at the top is still making money.
Yeah.
He sees the bottom line, he's selling arms and whatnot. But they never maintained that threat. They never maintained that threat to my economy, my business, my thing. I mean, when the last time we had a real bombing or anything happening in London, that kind of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I think, as sad as it sounds, I think 99.9% of what people make decisions on is economic at its base, that later becomes justified through other things. Oh, they're threatening our country. You don't care about your country, bro. Trust me. You're allowing all things to come in. You care about the bottom line. That's the end of the day. That's what you care about. Same thing. Look at 9/11. What was 9/11 about? They never made a bomb. They never made a plane hit a barracks or attack a US base. They attacked the World Trade Center.
Yes.
That is how you rally your people today to get behind your agenda. Is to threaten people's money, economy. Now, historically in the past, the reason why I say it's slightly different today is that in the past, I think people were willing to be poor and stay poor if it helped the church, if it helped the ummah, if it helped the Christian nation. They'd probably be more willing to deal with certain things. Whereas today, I think it's less. I think it's more to do with it's just the money at the end of the day. So yeah, has the government tarnished their what's it called? The
reputation. Yeah.
I mean, again, I think it just comes down to economics at the end of the day. Especially in the UK, if you bring money to someone, they don't care if you're Muslim. I mean, they might think you're the other, but if you're bringing them business, they love you, man. Come on, all these kuffar say, these Arabs, blah. When the Arabs come here to bring their money, they're like, come.
They forget they're Muslim. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Forget they're Muslim. They don't care.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So let's look at the relationship between Muslims and non-Muslims, because we do have a perception, or people have a perception that Muslims have a perception like there's a class of civilizations. For example, the Muslims that come to get us, they want to chop our heads off. They hate our society. They hate what we stand for. And then from the other side, the Muslims are played like the Muslims play. Oh, they hate our Islam. Like we're played against each other, right? How does the Muslim in the West deal with that relationship, especially if they have non-Muslim family? How can we put across to anyone who's watching that what does Islam stand for? What do Muslims stand for? What does Sharia stand for? Like, we're not here to what's the word, capture you or chop. We don't envy your way of life. Like, there's a certain propaganda that's been pushed through these wars and through ISIS and Al-Qaeda that the Muslims are just here. We can't have a relationship, or it's about us wanting to take over and push the Sharia onto them. How can we deal with this thing?
So what you're saying there is, if you continue the train of thought we were on,
Yes. Yeah.
if we acknowledge that primarily they're motivated by mal, primarily
Yes.
it's about the
It's no
cash.
longer a religious war, you could say. Would
I
you say?
mean, when I say
Unless their religion,
non-religious,
their religion is money now, you could say.
that's what I'm saying. So
Mm.
when religion and money are interwoven,
Hmm.
then yeah. So let me give you an example, and I'm sure many reverts can relate to this. I'm sure many reverts, especially those who became Muslim when they were young, like in a college, university,
Hmm.
when they went to go to their parents, I'm sure one of the main concerns of their parents is, what's going to happen to my child? Are they going to go and do something? Is it going to help harm their dunya? And when they've
Hmm.
seen that their children, who's now a Muslim, have now done well for themselves, they've got a business, they've got family, they've got whatnot, you see that their viewpoint has completely changed.
Hmm.
It's rare to find them still maintain that hatred, although they've done well for themselves and do well for their family. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
So that what that means is very few people actually have religious motivations at their core. Sometimes they feel that being Muslim would make you less stable, I guess, or less well off. That makes sense. But once they realize that's not the case, then they're cool in that regards. So in terms of the relationship between I'm not talking about the ground level. I'm not talking about the people, leaders or those in power. Because look,
Yeah.
remember, you have to remember that the dynamics of those in power are very different from the dynamics of
Different.
those who are being ruled. The
Mm.
councils, the governments, their motivation is different. Their view of the Sharia is different. If you start bringing in Sharia and bringing other stuff, that now interferes with what they do.
Yes.
Whereas the everyday Joe, you being Muslim or not, it doesn't affect them. So how would you approach them in a way, in a positive way? How could you present Islam to them in a positive manner that would help make dawah easy, even make them even accept Islam? Again, if they think of this, if this is their life, then
Mm.
you have to touch upon this.
Yes.
So one way you can do that, for example, as an example, you can maybe present after Tawheed, obviously, because Tawheed is the primary means mechanism of da'wah, because it highlights why we are here. That's very important. Why are you existing? Why are you eating and breathing and whatnot? That's the fundamental. That is the root of all programming, you can say, in our brains. After that, how does Islam preserve your wealth? How does Islam help you better your life? How does Islam prevent oppression?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why when we spoke about this topic, this is what we wanted to touch upon. When I think he's mentioned that Tony Blair was criticizing the Sharia,
Yes. Calling it barbaric, and we have to
called
save them
barbaric.
from this
But
Okay.
from my experience, a person when you speak to and engage with non-Muslims about the
Mm-hmm.
Sharia,
Mm-hmm.
99% of the time they agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
They see the
Mm.
fairness of the Sharia. The thing is, fundamentally, everyone, and the fitrah is there, brother. The fitrah is there. We understand what is fair, what is right, what is
Mm.
oppression. We can sense it, we can feel it. I can
Mm.
tell that if I work 9 to 5 and I've earned all I've earned, and then someone who I have not, I don't know who they are, where they are, they come along and take 45% of what I've earned. I can understand. I can feel that. I can feel what's going on. I don't just those who say, oh, you have to pay your taxes, that's ideology speaking. That's what they've been that's the you could say
Mm.
the surface answer. We're talking about the deeper answer. What is it deep? How do you feel about it? When
40%
you
of your
ask
money
them
gone. Yeah.
40% of your money gone. Just now, I received the link. For those who don't know, if you have a limited company, 20% or 19% of your profits is
Mm-hmm.
taxed as a limited company. They're discussing to now raise that from 20% to 45%. It's more than double. Now, it doesn't matter if you're Muslim or non-Muslim. We
Yes.
understand. We understand the
Yeah.
situation. So if you said to a non-Muslim, did you know that Islam is taxes not allowed because it's essentially theft?
Mm.
Bro, you could all the propaganda on planet Earth can't repel the fitrah.
Mm.
And this is why I'm
Mm.
saying that this is why I'm so eager for Muslims themselves to learn about the Sharia, because
Yes.
they themselves will learn and feel the fairness of Islam. But
Mm-hmm.
secondly, it gives you the capacity to deliver that fairness to someone in a more effective way. So yeah, I mean,
But you know the propaganda is when they speak about the Sharia, they're going to show a Taliban whipping some woman for whatever. You just see a clip of the woman, or someone's getting their hang. Whenever they push over the Sharia, they put in a negative light. So I think it is one of our duty is to, which we can do, discuss some aspects of the Sharia in order to clarify some of the issues. Because
possibly.
when people hear the Sharia, they think, "Oh my days, they want to cut our hands off. They want to, do X, Y, Z to us." So there is something that we have to actually push forward the perspective of
Um,
what is a Sharia on a day-to-day basis.
yeah. So the thing is, how you address that, I guess, from experience, is there's not one solution for everyone.
Yes.
Delivery is important. Who you're speaking to is important. What you said before is important. A lot of things are important in terms of da'wah. But for
Mm-hmm.
example, for example, what you said here, oh, they want to cut our hands off, as an example, yeah, as a narrative, they want to cut our hands off.
Mm.
If you would say to them, cut whose hands off?
Mm.
As in, yeah, they've got half the story. Someone's hand got cut off. I get that. Whose hand?
Yeah, I
No,
get you. Break it down.
the thing is, break it down because, again, fitrah.
Yes.
They say, for example, they might say, oh, in Islam, oh, in the Sharia, you execute murderers, not kind of, or you execute people and you beheadings. They love doing that one. You do beheadings.
Yes.
Okay, behead who? Whose head are you
Mm.
beheading?
Mm.
Oh, some people is probably innocent. Okay, but is it from Islam to behead innocent people? I mean, is that what you're saying? Islam beheads innocent people. The thing is, their narrative only makes sense if you don't explain yourself. If you just leave
Yes.
it, they do beheadings and just leave it at that, and you
And
don't go beyond that thought to actually what's actually going on. And like I said, you want to try and reach the fitrah, and this is where you have to start speaking again. You have to start speaking to people who are only judged by desires in that manner. My friend, John, Tiffany, whoever you are, your child who you raised and reared and looked after and loved was brutally murdered for £10. All they had in their wallet was £10, and someone brutally murdered them for their wallet. It
yes,
was only £10 in that wallet.
you know what the answer is going to be.
Now the government's giving you the option to either allow him to live in a cell, probably get a PlayStation, probably get this, probably get that, all that kind of stuff going on, or at least get execution. He will be they will argue to one of two answers. Either one, they'll give the surface answer, or two, they will give the fitra answer. It's only about getting them past this surface answer. Oh, it's wrong, and oh, it's this, and human rights, and blah blah blah. But put that narrative and that thing aside. Make it personal. This is the issue. Make it personal, and this is what you have to. Again, when it comes to the issue of da'wah, it's about giving a full narrative. And this is why, generally speaking, I've always had a negative stance towards the media, because it's all about part of the story. It's not about the whole story. You know,
So
that sound bite, that 5 second, what's it called? Headline. So and so happens and blah blah blah. I'm like, oh, it's
yes,
so bad, and then they might add some other comments, but the message is basically that headline. What does the headline say? It means this happened. Oh, it's so bad. Okay, but why did it happen? And what's the context behind it? And what was the justification if there are any? Yeah, I'm saying ask questions about what's going on. So sometimes what I think is, which is a bit dangerous and a bit sad, is that some Muslims, they find to repel these incomplete truths with denial. So they'll
okay,
say,
yes,
"Oh no, it's
we
not
don't
how it
do that.
is, and we don't
It's
do
been
that."
abrogated.
No. Don't do that. Don't try and repel something by saying the whole thing is not true. That doesn't make sense. Just scratch the surface. That's all you have to do. Scratch the surface. Just ask the right questions. And I give one example. This is a really classic one. I always give this example because it just shows what one of the reasons why I hate the media. In 2000 and I think it was seven. No, it wasn't seven, because I think it was 7 or 6. 7 or 6. There was an event which happened where there was some woman in Qatif in Saudi Arabia. Qatif, how apparently she was. I'll read you the headline, and then we'll scratch the surface. I'll read you the headline,
Yes.
and then we'll scratch the surface. Rape victim is stoned. Not stoned. Is gives lashes. That's the narrative.
The rape victim
Gets
is given
lashes.
lashes. Gets lashes.
Given
Okay.
lashes. Yes. Now, I mean, what's your first reaction to that? Just react. What's your gut reaction to that one?
That's so unjust. Why did they rape? Why did they whip the rape
Why
victim?
would exactly? Why are these Muslims? This and that? This is so bad.
Yes.
It's so this is so that. This is okay. Let's scratch the surface.
Mm.
Why was she given lashes? What was the reason for the lashes?
Mm-hmm.
Because she was alone with a man in the desert. It was nothing to do with what happened while she's in the desert with some other guys. It was to do with the fact that she was alone with her boyfriend in the desert. That's the reason why she got lashes. See,
Where did the
it
rape
wasn't
issue come
difficult.
from? Where did the rape thing come from? Where did the rape come from?
Because when she was with her boyfriend in the desert, some
Yeah.
other guys came and apparently kidnapped them.
Oh, I see.
So there's two separate events happening here. There's one event with these other guys, and they got their
Yes.
punishment. And then there's this woman here. Why was she in the desert in the first place? What was she doing there?
Yes. I get you.
But I get again, they want emotions. They want the it is, and this is one thing. One of the things I hate about media, or I'll say tabloid media. So the best way is probably tabloid media, because I guess not all media is the same, but tabloid media is that it's not really about right or wrong. It's about sensationalism. It's about getting the links and the clicks. It's the same across the board, whether you're Muslim or non-Muslim. It's not a non-Muslim thing. It's just a human thing. If your business model is clicks and views and hits and ads and whatnot, the only way you could do that is sensationalism. What's the whole
Yes.
idea of clickbait? Clickbait basically is sensationalism.
Mm.
You know, when you have those YouTube videos and you have these titles that are, so absurd and like, oh my days, Muslim guy blows up school. It's sensationalism. Maybe that's not what
Yes.
happened, but
They said
Hamas
just get a
puts
click.
bombs in basement of school. I mean, it's all about sensation. It's all about come to our website, buy our magazines, buy our newspapers because we need sales. So again, and the funny thing is, bro, look at it. I know again, I don't want to reduce things to always economics, but what's the
Yeah.
motivation for the sensationalism? Is it because they hate Muslims?
No, it's
It's
just to
just
get the
about the
click.
money.
Yeah, get the
It's
viewers
just the
in.
clickbait. And also, by the way, and this is unfortunate, because the thing is, Muslims like to think that we, as being Muslims, are innocent. No, I'm sure Muslims will also do the clickbaity stuff. Oh, this Muslim leader did this and ever. Oh, these guys are. Oh, but they have the same nonsense on both sides. It doesn't mean there's no truth in the nonsense. By the way, I'm not saying that there's no truth in the nonsense, but we have to understand that someone is monetizing the truth.
Yes.
Someone's
Okay.
monetizing the truth.
What we'll do, Mario, we're gonna try and keep the podcast to an hour. We've got basically 3 or 4 minutes.
Yeah.
And on this one, obviously we summarized at the beginning what we're looking at, and the aim of this first podcast is that Muslims must view the world through the eyes of the Sharia. This word Sharia, whoever watches this video, when they hear the word Sharia, they shouldn't be frightened by it. Do you get what I'm saying? So, in your perspective, despite the fact of the heavy propaganda against Islam, heavy propaganda against Muslims, which, as you said, is probably for financial, geopolitical reasons, and not necessarily between Christians and Muslims.
No,
How?
I won't even say probably. It has to be, because there's no other
Yes,
motivation besides that.
yes. How do then Muslims? What should the relationship be between the Muslim and the non-Muslim, despite this propaganda that is trying to break relationships and pit people against each other? And this is from our perspective.
Well,
What would you tell the viewers concerning what should the relationship between the Muslims and the non-Muslims?
well, as Muslims, what we need to do is da'wah. Obviously, that goes without saying. Da'wah is the primary role of a Muslim in the West. This is something we all need to recognize at the root. If someone's living in the UK because they're country and they're happy to live here, then they've missed the point. The only reason you should be here and can be here is either to make some money here temporarily and then leave, or you're here to give da'wah. So that is essentially what you need to do, to represent Muslims, give da'wah, invite other people to Islam, and therefore that should be our goal. And whilst you are here, you need to be doing that. How do you do that? By inviting the non-Muslims to Islam, and the way you combat these false narratives is simply by getting them to think. You know, get them to ask the right questions when it's necessary. By the way, this is important. When it's necessary, it's not always necessary to ask the right questions. If someone comes to you, non-Muslim, and say, "Oh, why are you Muslims do X, Y, Z?" Maybe the right answer is not to even discuss that. Maybe the right answer is to discuss Tawheed and say, "Okay,
Yeah.
brother." And actually, what I'll do here is actually I'll conclude this point here with an event that happened to me once about a decade ago. I was in Walthamstow. There was some HTs there talking about Palestine and blah, blah, and wrong and injustice. And there was some other kuffar there saying, "Oh, you this and that." And it was this. And I stood there thinking, what are these guys doing, man? Why are you taking this opportunity to just moan about politics? No, it's not important, but that's what they were doing. Muslim against whoever, not. And then one white guy was there, and he goes, you know, he was giving it back as well as it was getting. So the HT guys were lacking up because they got like overwhelmed because there was so many non-Muslims around them, and it was like raising their voice, that kind of stuff. So I thought, let me come in and see if I can salvage the situation a bit. So then the guy, the non-Muslim guy goes, "Oh, so why do women cover their hair? Why do you do that for them?" So I said to him, "Let me ask you a counter question. If the creator of the heavens and the earth ordered women to cover their hair, and you knew that the creator of the heavens and the earth, the creator of mankind, everything, God himself, said all must cover her head, what do you feel about that rule? Is it right or wrong?" After a short pause, he said, "Well, if it came from God, then it's right." So therefore, the question isn't why. The question is, did it come from Allah? And then the question just completely changed from Palestine and politics and foreign policy to now, did the Quran come from Allah? You see how you just changed the narrative? Because really the issue wasn't really the Sharia. That's what I'm saying to you. The Sharia is the fitrah. The Sharia is the fitrah. No right person in their right mind really disagrees with the Sharia.
Okay.
So therefore, you need to now change the narrative, change the discussion. So therefore, it appeals to their nafs, their fitrah, number one, and gets to the root cause of why they're here. So they have discussed about God and creation and whatnot. And eventually, the conclusion of that little short, brief discussion was, yeah, if the Quran came from God, then he would accept it as a Muslim. He said he went from hating Muslims and why you to now saying, okay, well, if the Quran is from God, then I'll be Muslim.
I have to accept
all that was
it.
left now is for him to actually get to that stage, which obviously the conversation ended and we parted company. And hopefully, maybe he did get to that last part of the story. But you see how the tension changed. Not by denying the Sharia or by being aggressive and saying, yeah, because you're kuffar. No, it actually changed by just accepting the reality as it is, but just attack it from another angle. So I think that's basically what Muslims do. We need to address other non-Muslims in a manner which is in line with the fitrah, but invites them to al-Islam. So I guess in future discussions, we'll probably next week we can expand a bit more on that topic and how and whatnot.
Yeah, I mean, definitely for next week, I want to touch on the relationship between family members, because I went through something last week, which I'll touch on next week anyway, in regards to how we deal with our non-Muslim relatives. The conflicts in regards to, free mixing, alcohol, drugs, parties, weddings, religious ceremonies. Can we participate? Can we not participate? So, and some things that can happen, some dynamics that can. So if we can touch on that next week, I think this was a good introduction. The time is fine for me. No worries. So if we can touch next week, you ready for next week? Same, we can touch on that topic for next week.
Like I said, I'm on a tight schedule to lose some weight for the next 10 weeks. So every morning I'm up, Fajr, I do my morning walks or exercise. So even today, I did my thing today, had a little bit of breakfast. I was ready, came here on time. So 9 o'clock is right for me, bro. And it should be, the thing is, ironically, it should be right for everyone. I mean, we all wake up for Fajr.
Yes,
so
we should be staying up. Yeah. So for those who are going to view this recording, we'll be here we'll try and make it every Saturday at 9 a.m. We'll send out the link. If you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, you can send us a comment. We can then put your comment across. If you want to come into the discussion, then probably the last 15 minutes we'll open up for questions and answers. So yeah, Jazakallah khair for your time, Arya. We're gonna try and keep it to an hour. Keep it time for an hour. And next week we'll be discussing about the family relationships between Muslims and non-Muslims, and the dynamics and what can happen and not happen. So once
Okay.
again, Jazakallah khairan
وياك
for
إن
your
شاء الله.
time, and inshallah we'll see you again next week, next Saturday, 9 a.m.
جزاك الله خير. Thanks for having me,
شكرا
Carl. جزاك
شيخ.
الله خير.
السلام
Okay, السلام
عليكم
عليكم.
ورحمة الله
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله.
وبركاته.
So we had one comment from Michael Schmickel.